So first, let's loop Noel Redding's first bass line. There's a second bass line that we'll go over later in the video. So this is how Jimi actually played it, using octaves. But there's lots of other ways to play it. So I recommend starting with this single note in the lower octave, just to get the riff down before adding the octaves. You could also do the higher octave. And running the riff across the string gives you a chance to add those cool slides. But we could play it in position. Like here's diatonic scale shape 4. And of course we're in E Mixolydian, which is the same as A major. It's the 5th mode of A major. Let's try it in diatonic scale shape number 2. So it's great to take any riff and learn it all over the neck. Let's try scale shape 5. As you can tell, different areas of the fretboard have a different sound. I really like this one. So here's some other ways to soften the sound. This is kind of the pinch method, so you don't have to worry about muting strings. Stevie Ray Vaughan did this on the Live at the El Macambo cover of this song. You can see him do the pinch. And later in the video, there's an in-depth lesson on how to play octaves. Then there's the Wes Montgomery octave method, which is just with the thumb. He played everything with the thumb. Gives a nice, soft, jazzy vibe. My guitar was really dry when I filmed this, and there's a lot of string noise. I apologize. Little wah-wah action, which of course, Jimi loved the wah-wah. Some whammy bar action as well. Now we could also do this using pentatonic scales, but we have to bend up to those outside notes. Like this one right here. We bent from the 6 to the flat 7. But we could still use those pentatonic shapes and just bend up to the notes. You might also find it helpful to go back to the beginning and use YouTube's playback speed control to watch it at half speed or 3/4 speed and find a speed that works for you. And later in the lesson, I'm going to give you a step-by-step breakdown on the technique. Hey everybody, Gary here with Pow Music, and in this video we're going to go over the main melody of Jimi Hendrix's Third Stone from the Sun. So this actual melody only happens twice in the song, but it's so memorable and so kind of definitive of the song that a lot of the versions that you hear other musicians do, they're just kind of playing or jamming over this one part. So it's a super memorable melody, and I want to talk about what makes it unique, how it's in the Mixolydian mode, and then I also want to challenge you to create your own riff using these notes that Jimi used. My mission with Pow Music is, one, to help you demystify the fretboard and give context to all the things that I teach you, so that it's not just press this button at this time, but it's actually, okay, I understand the scale, I understand the key, and I understand how I could take this idea and make it my own. After you learn how to play the riff, I challenge you to take the concept, take the scale, take the ideas, and make your own thing. I'm gonna give you a few examples of that. If you do make your own thing, please post it to Instagram and just tag me at PowMusic and use the hashtag PowMusic. If you post it on YouTube, send me a link and I'll be sure to share it so that people can see what you did. But actually, the best place to share it would be to my new Facebook group, Fretboard Adventures. So there's only a few people in there now, but I want to grow this group into an awesome community where we can learn together, share questions and ideas, and post clips of what we're working on. So I'll put a link to the group in the description, and I hope to see you there. All right, let's get back into the lesson. The first time the riff happens, it's with that bass line. But then there's a second bass line. The second bass line's more modal. It's just all on the E chord. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So with this bass line, it sounds cool to leave the low E string ringing out on some of the notes like this. One of the things that's so cool about it from a theoretical perspective is that it's in Mixolydian mode. So when he first plays it, the bass line is implying an E major to a B minor. One of my favorite chord sequences. And in Mixolydian mode, we could think of that as 1 major to 5 minor. If we relate it back to the relative major key, which is A, we could think of it as 5 to 2, just 5 to 2 over and over. So if we're in A, E is the 5 chord and B is the 2 chord, B minor is the 2 chord. But if we're thinking Mixolydian, we're thinking 1 major, 5 minor. And then this melody, beautiful Mixolydian melody. And Mixolydian mode's like major, but it has a minor 7th. It has a flat 7. So with that in mind, this is the note right here that makes it Mixolydian and not major. So if we're thinking we're in E Mixolydian, the flat 7 of E Mixolydian is D, right? Because it's a whole step away from the root. In regular major, we're a half step away from the root. So this note is what's going to define it as a Mixolydian melody. So if we played the riff major and not Mixolydian, it would sound like this. So that note, not very nice, right? This note makes all the difference. So that's the sound of Mixolydian. That flat 7, whereas here's the sound of major. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But here we have te, do. And when you first learn this melody, I recommend you just use one finger. Just play the root note, don't play the octave. I'm going to show you the octave thing next. So we start on the 3rd of the E chord, A string on the 11th fret. If we think here's our E, there's a major 3rd that we start on, the G sharp, on the 11th fret. So I would just start with that first finger running through the riff. So we start on 11. And if you could sing it, that's really going to help. So we've got 11, 11, 9, 7, 9, 4, 7. Let's just go over that part again. 11, 11, 9, 7, 9, 4, 7. Then the second quarter goes 5, 4, 2, 4, and then we go to the low E string. 4, 7. Play that part again. 5, 4, 2, 4, 4, 7. Now this is the part I had wrong. In the last video I had 5, 4, 2, 4, 5, 7. And I got that in my head because Stevie Ray Vaughan played it that way at his Live at the El Mocambo recording, which is how I first learned the riff, and I assumed that was the way it is, but Hendrix actually did not. Both sound cool. So 5, 4, 2, 4, 4, 7. Now what also makes this easier is this note 4 is part of the pentatonic, E major pentatonic scale, where the one on the 5th fret isn't. So if you're doing this in pentatonic, you know, let's say you're hanging out. That's right out of the pentatonic scale, whereas this note is not. So anyway, 5, 4, 2, 4, 4, 7, and here's the last part of it. Then on that low E string, we go 9, 7, then to the A, 9, 7, 9, 7, 9, 7. So let me do those last two parts again. On the A, 5, 4, 2, 4 to the E, 4, 7. Then we've got 9, 7 on the E, 9, 7 on the A, and that's it. I just want to interrupt the lesson for a second to extend a huge thank you to all of the POW Music patrons at patreon.com/POWmusic. Thank you for your ongoing support. As you're aware, the content I put out on YouTube is very high quality with fret live animations and all this visual stuff to help you learn, and some of these videos can take up to 60 hours to create. If you're interested in supporting the work I do here at POW Music, please consider becoming a patron. As a reward, you'll receive Tab to go along with all my lessons. There's live weekly face-to-face small group video lessons, the complete fret live animations for all the videos I make. So check it out, patreon.com/POWmusic. The link is below, and let's get back into the lesson. You know, I'm doing some things to bring it alive. A little vibrato. I'm sliding into the notes. Sliding back. That's legato, where I only pick once. So these are kind of things that'll make it sound a little more vocal, like you're singing it. All right, so now we've got to add the octave. Now an octave is just a musical term that means the same note, but vibrating at double the pitch. So if this note is a G sharp, so is this one. They're both G sharp. This one just vibrates double the pitch. Now humans naturally hear octaves. Like if I said to a child, sing this note, la, they're gonna go, la. It's just human nature. We can match pitch at different octaves. So it sounds like the same pitch, just vibrating twice the frequency. So we play that octave. And just so you know, as far as this formula, the same formula works from the E string. Let's say we were on 11th fret of the E, over 2, down 2. Works on the A like we just did. Now once we get to the D string, we've got to go over 3, down 2, like this, over 3, down 2, because of the way the guitar is tuned. It's tuned in fourths, except between the G and the B we have a third, and then from the B back to the E we have a fourth again. So that throws everything off, makes the guitar kind of not make sense for a very long time. So anyway, so that's the octave from the D string, and then from the G, same thing, we go over 3, down 2. So from the G, over 3, down 2. From the D, over 3, down 2. From the A, over 2, down 2. And from the E, over 2, down 2. Now that's a great way to find your notes on the guitar. You know, I would recommend you memorize the E and the A string first, and then once you have the E and the A string memorized, you can find the other notes by using octaves. That's just one technique for finding the notes. Like let's say you're playing a G chord here, and you want to find another G chord. Well, you know, okay, here's a G root. Okay, here's a G. So then from there I can find another G. There's a G chord too. So something to keep in your back pocket. Alright, so now the trick to playing octaves effectively is muting the strings that you don't want sounding out. So when I go like this, I'm strumming pretty freely, all 6 strings actually, or maybe 4, maybe 5, whatever. I'm not really worrying about it because I'm muting all the other strings. So first you want to be able to use your first finger to mute all the other strings. So if you put your first finger on the 11th fret and you play that note, you should be able to mute the low E with the tip of the finger, and then the other 4 strings. It sounds a little messy with the distortion. Let me just clean it up so you could hear it. So when I'm strumming, you're only hearing that G sharp. So you want to try to mute the low E with the tip of your finger, and then the flesh of that first finger just lightly touches the rest of the strings. So you really want to work on that technique. This is not only good for octaves, it's good for power chords. It's good for other intervals, like here's a popular interval, a 10th. We're going to go over this in the song Reptilia. It goes. That technique is playing an interval called a 10th, where you skip over 2 strings and you play the 3rd of the chord and the root. But anyway, so this is a technique worth developing, not just for octaves. So then once you get that first finger down, you want to add the octave. And then you can use that 3rd finger to kind of double up on the muting, just to make extra sure. I'm using that tip as kind of touching the D string, and the kind of flesh on the back of my finger is touching the B string. And that's it. Now some people use 1st and 3rd finger. I actually, even though I did it that way naturally without thinking about it, I mostly use my 1st finger and my pinky. So now we just use that octave to go through the melody again. So thinking of where the first finger is, we have on the A string, we have 11, 9, 7, 9, 4, 7, 5, 4, 2, 4, 4, 7, 9, 7, 9, 7. And that's it. A great exercise that you could do as far as trying to figure out any melody is play it in all the different positions, and then make sure you understand the framework that goes along with how you're playing it. So the best thing to do really would be figure it out by ear, but then identify the shape that you're using. So now you understand the shape and you're developing your ear at the same time. So one thing you can do is download my free PDF, the 5 shapes and 7 modes of the major scale, and try to play this melody in every single shape. So I showed you shape 5. So in shape 5 we had. Go through all the shapes. That will really free you up. When you put your ear together with the shapes all over the fretboard, you're not going to feel constricted to one place. And you're also not going to learn a riff, and the riff starts and ends with the riff. The riff is going to become part of a greater, bigger picture. And you'll have the freedom to take that riff in different places because you're not just seeing it as this isolated thing. It's just that riff. You're going to see how it relates to everything you know on guitar. Before I go, I would like to extend a huge thank you to all of the POW Music patrons at patreon.com/POWmusic. Thank you for your ongoing support, and I'd like to give a personal shout out to William Spencer, Cam Chernachon, and Robert McCain. Thank you. All right, everybody, have fun, happy playing. I apologize if you could see all the sweat on me. It's over 90 degrees here in Texas, and I shut off the AC so that you don't have to hear it in this video. All right, have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time.